Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a review show special. Now, this is where I take a deep dive into a particular trick, a particular creator, a particular production company, and I kind of take a bit more time on the review than I would do if it was, like a Craig and Ryland review show, for example. And today, I'm actually going to be looking at a trick that has been requested. My review on this has been requested probably more than any trick in the last year, and that's an Akronym, which has recently just come out and is taking the magic world by storm. You can always tell whether a trick has a lot of buzz on it based on how many posts there are on Facebook in various different magic groups, how many pages there are on the Magic Cafe thread, and this has been a juggernaut. It is absolutely everywhere. And there's a little bit of an interesting history with an Akronym when it comes to Magic TV, which I'm going to share with you, first of all, before I actually do this review. And I'm also going to tell you that this review is not going to have a live performance to it either. And there's a reason for that as well, which we'll get to in a minute. But first of all, let's talk about the history behind this. So, around about a year ago, if not a little bit longer than a year ago, Matt said to me, hey, I want to do a Craig test, and I want to perform a trick that was shown to me at Blackpool, and I've been given a copy of it. And I said, okay, yeah, no problem. That sounds cool. He said, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to try and fool you with it. I was like, okay, cool, really exciting. Let's do this. So we filmed this Craig test on this particular product. And I really didn't like it. And really didn't like it. And there were reasons why I didn't like it. And I filmed the Matt test. And Matt then said to me a couple of days later, so we filmed the Matt test, and it was quite a negative Matt test, Craig test. It was a negative Craig test from my point of view, because I was like, well, I don't like it because of this and this and this and this and this. And Matt told me we couldn't put the video up. And I was like, okay, well, why can't we put the video up? And he said, well, the company that sent him the trick to perform, they weren't happy with the fact that I was being negative about it. I think he sent them a copy of the video so they could watch it, and that I couldn't put it up. And there was some back and forth, and eventually I agreed. I said, look, it's not officially been released, so okay, we won't put it up. But I was a bit miffed about it because it's kind of a waste of time. It takes a long time to film these videos. To do a Craig test, I have to take Matt out of the sales desk. I have to sit down here with him. Then Michael has to edit it. We have to get it online, and then back and forth about whether we're putting up or not. People say to me, how do you get so much done in a day? It's because I'm quite, my time's quite valuable to me, but we pulled it down, whatever. It was absolutely fine. And then I gave it no more thought. And fast forward just over a year, and I'm getting a ton of people asking me to review an Akronym, which I didn't really know what it was, because I've been very busy the last few weeks, and I haven't really been keeping up to touch with a lot of the new products. And this coincided with filming the Magic podcast, and Lloyd, if anybody listens to the Magic podcast, Lloyd said to me on the Magic podcast, you've got to check this trick out. It's called an Akronym. It's really good, blah, 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 blah. So with everybody asking me to review it, and with Lloyd telling me it was good, I went to look for it. I found it on Vanishing Ink. It was just under £100. I think it was £90 or something like that. A lot of money, but I thought, well, okay, I'm going to have to drop money on it now. I read through the ad copy, and bought it. And when I bought it, I realised that it's the trick that Matt showed me a year ago that we ended up pulling off the channel. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, this can't be the same thing. But I went through all the written tutorial, I went through all the videos, I went through absolutely everything. And I was like, okay, well, maybe in the last year, the problems that I had with it have changed. Maybe the problems I had with it have been eliminated, and they've worked on it over the course of the last year. And now it's in a position where the issues that I had with it were no longer issues. And I watched all of the videos, I read everything. And the main problem that I had with an acronym was still there. So I started second guessing myself, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm just making a mountain over a molehill here. Maybe there's not an issue. Maybe it's just me. So I started performing it to a couple of people. I didn't feel confident taking it to gigs, but I put it on my phone. I practiced. I learned how to do it. And first of all, I performed it to my family. So I performed it to Sarah. I performed it to Ryland and Thea. Then I performed it to some people in the office. And then I performed it to a couple of people that I'm just friends with that don't work in the office. You know, just a couple of friends. And almost everybody other than one person highlighted the same problem with this that I had, which kind of made me concerned about it. And I don't often second guess myself when it comes to reviews. And I'll tell you right now, as a reviewer, and I know a lot of other reviewers are the same, I don't really watch other people's reviews because that kind of pushes you in another direction. If you are a reviewer and you watch somebody else's review and they've made points, that can then kind of impact on the points that you're making if you're not careful. So I went back and looked at the ad copy for an acronym again, and I noticed that on the Vanishing Ink website, on where the an acronym is, there was a review on there by Steve Faulkner. And I'm like, well, they're not going to have put the review on there by Steve if it's not a good review. So it's probably going to be a good review. I'm not going to watch it. But Steve is somebody I massively respect. So I rang up Steve. And I was like, look, I'm kind of a bit up in the air about this. I don't really know what to do. And he said, what's up? And I explained the situation. Hey, I'm looking at this trick. I seem to be the only person that's having an issue with this. I skimmed through the Magic Cafe. Everybody said it was, as far as I could see, there were mainly negative posts. Mainly positive posts. Lloyd was raving about it. Matt, originally when he got it, was raving about it. And I was like, I'm guessing you gave it a positive review. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, let me explain why I've got an issue with this thing. And he said, look, I completely understand where you're coming from. I had that same issue, but I went and worked it in the real world, and I didn't find it was an issue because of X, Y, Z. But you've got to tell the truth, and you've got to be honest, and you've spent money on it. So because you spent money on it, you've got to tell the truth. So that's kind of where we are right now. And it's a long-winded way of saying this is not going to be the most positive review in the world, but I have to be completely honest. And, you know, I've spent my money on this thing. I've tried it a few times, and I just don't think it works as well as it could do. And I want to explain why. But again, understand this is only my opinion. There's a lot of people that seemingly love this. You look at the reviews on Vanishing Ink, and there's a lot of 5-star reviews of people saying, oh my God, this is the most amazing trick I've ever seen. This is absolutely brilliant. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just not very good at performing this trick. Maybe it's just me. But I'm going to highlight, first of all, what the trick is, and then the issues that I have with it. And I'm not going to do a live performance. And the reason I'm not going to do a live performance, and this is the first niggle that I've got, the reason I'm not going to do a live performance is because I'm legally not allowed to do a live performance. And what I mean by that is when you watch the tutorial and you read, because the tutorial, you get a website, and on the website there's a settings page, and then there's a instructions page, and there's video links you can go and watch, but there's also a lot of written instructions, and you can literally get by with just the written instructions. And at the bottom it says very, very clearly, TV rights are withheld with this product, and social media performing rights are withheld from this product as well. If you would like the rights to, perform this on social media or on television, please email us. And I understand TV rights being withheld. I disagree with it. I think that once you've spent your money, you should be able to perform in any environment you want to perform it in. But I get it. I understand why TV rights are withheld. I understand. Whatever. Okay. I'm never going to understand why social media rights are withheld. I'm never going to get that. So many people perform over social media these days. Social media is its own performing medium. It is just as big a performing medium as performing in a walk-around situation or performing on stage. I don't understand why anybody would ever not want any videos of a trick not being on social media, especially as you can't replicate the trick. It's not like you can do this. A video pops up of this being performed, and then you go immediately, well, okay, well, in order to do this trick, I can just do it now. You have to buy the trick. You get a unique license that you have to use in order to get into the trick. You can't just do it based on watching a performance. And I really don't understand why any production company or any creator would stop social media performances of a trick. I just don't understand that. And also, I was a bit frustrated with myself. Of course, my thing is I'm a magic reviewer. A lot of the time I buy stuff to review that I'm never going to perform. But I need to review it, so I buy it. And my thing as a reviewer is I try to perform everything that I buy, right? So you can see a warts and all performance of what the trick actually is meant to look like. And I was a bit annoyed with myself that I missed that. I saw TV rights, but I didn't see social media rights. I was like, a bit annoyed that I missed that. I was very annoyed, actually, that I'd missed that, especially as I paid almost £100 to get this. And I know a lot of reviewers have had it sent to them. I know Steve, he openly says he got his sent. I didn't. I had to buy mine. Right? Fine. No problem. So I went back and looked at Vanishing Ink's website. And Vanishing Ink's website has a big box at the bottom. After all the ad copy on the videos, there's a big box at the bottom saying TV rights are withheld. Please email to get permission to perform on TV. It doesn't say anything about social media rights. The ad copy, as far as I can see, does not see anywhere about social media rights withheld. And I think that's a big no-no right from the very, very beginning. I don't agree with withholding social media rights anyway, but if you're going to do that, it should at least be on the ad copy. Because that's mainly why I bought it, to perform it on social media and to be able to, perform it as part of a review show. And the fact that it wasn't on the ad copy and therefore I wasn't aware that the social media rights were withheld, I just think that's wrong, personally. It's a bit of a niggle that I've got with the whole thing. But I emailed them. I emailed the email like I was meant to, and I said, hey, I've got this product, I've paid for it, I want to review it on my channel. I typically do live performances. Can I please include a live performance? I've heard nothing. I've left it a few days. I've heard nothing. So I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to risk performing it as part of this review show when it's explicitly said in the instructions that I can't. I just think it's very annoying, A, that they haven't replied to their email, and B, that this wasn't highlighted on the ad copy. So please be aware, if you're thinking of buying this and you're wanting to do it on social media, you can't. You're not allowed to. And if you email them, well, as far as I can see, they're not going to get back to you. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe they remember who I was from the whole thing that happened a year ago, and maybe they're like, oh my God, we don't want Craig to perform it because we had to take his last video down. But you can't, I don't know what the reason is. I've got no idea, but whatever. So that's the first thing that you need to be aware of. Now, what is the trick? What is an acronym? So basically, what we have here, and there are elements of this that are very, very clever. So in essence, this is how the trick would play out. You would say to somebody, hey, I've got an invisible die. Let's say I was performing this to Ryland. Hey, Ry, I've got this invisible die. Roll the die for me and tell me what number's pointing upwards. Let's say he says the number 3. You go, brilliant. Okay. And then you borrow their phone and you go on their phone onto Wikipedia. And when you get onto Wikipedia, you show how Wikipedia works. You go, look, when you get onto Wikipedia, if you type in the search bar anything, for example, Staten Island, when you search, it's going to come up with various different links and you can click on one. And then you point out that when you have that in front of you, there's various different hyperlinks within the text, which are highlighted in blue. And that will take you to a different page. And then when you get to that page, there's going to be other hyperlinks that are in blue that will take you through to another page and another page and another page. And going on Wikipedia is a little bit like YouTube in that you end up going down a rabbit warren. Who's ever been on YouTube? You're watching a video about wrestling and you end up 3 hours later watching reactions to like something else that's got nothing to do, and you've gone down this rabbit warren, right? You've ended up going in a completely different direction you didn't even know you were going to go down. Well, it's the same with Wikipedia. You can go on Wikipedia and you'll see a link somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else, and before you know it, you're looking at a completely different subject matter that you did at the beginning. So we're going to do that. We're going to have you randomly select some links, and whatever links that you select, we're going to write them down. So you have a piece of paper in front of you and you go, right, okay, first of all, search for something. Search for anything. So they search for something. And you say, look, when you search for it, there's lots of different options that you can click on, as you can see. Click on one of the options and you say, look, do you see all the blue hyperlinks? They will take you somewhere else. So click on a hyperlink at random, that one, brilliant. Right, now we're going to begin. You're on a completely different page. Let's start. All these different hyperlinks, I want you to call one out for me and I'll write it down. And let's say they say radar or whatever it may be. And you go write it down, radar. Great, do another one. Now do another one. Now do another one. Now do another one. Now do another one. And you keep getting them to bounce around and click on links. And each link is going to take them to a different place. So they're going to end up in a completely different place to where you started. And you go, fantastic, right? You're going to stop now, stop. And you go, now that was a free choice. You know, it's your phone. You went on Wikipedia. You did the search. You decided which links to go onto. There's no way I could have influenced you, right? But at the beginning, you rolled an invisible die. What was the number you rolled? Number 4, for example. And then when you've been writing down all of these words on a piece of paper, one underneath the next, underneath the next, underneath the next. And when you look at the 4th letter of each word, it spells out, in this case, Ryland, or any word that you want. It doesn't really matter. You can have the word be absolutely anything. In this case, you know, a lot of the time it's a name reveal, Ryland. It could be in a thought of word that you picked. It doesn't really matter. And it takes place on their phone. Right, so that's the effect. That's what the effect is. Let me talk about the pros first of all, the things that are really good about this, because there are a lot of really good things about this, but then let me tell you why ultimately I'm not going to do it. So first of all, the method is really clever. I have been using Wikitest for a long, long time, and using Wikipedia as a basis, as a jumping off point for a performance is a really smart idea. Mark Kirstein's Wikitest is still one of the best apps ever created, and something that a lot of magicians use during lockdown, during virtual events, that you can do just as easily live and in person. Wikitest is great. This is a very clever adaptation of it's not an adaptation of Wikitest, it's completely different, but it uses Wikipedia but in a very, very different way. I love the fact that it takes place on the spectator's phone. That's really smart. I love the methodology that you use in order to get it to do what you need it to do. I'm going to try and be a little bit vague here because I don't want to give it away, but what you do at the beginning, and you show, hey, look, if I search for this, you know, this, you're explaining how Wikipedia works. During the course of openly explaining on their phone how Wikipedia works, you've set this trick up. You've inputted the secret information that needs to be inputted openly in front of the audience, without them realizing anything. It's very, very clever how it works. The other thing I like about this is the end result. I think that a lot of the time when you're performing magic, if there's a final reveal, a lot of the time people can see it coming. Not always, but a lot of the time people can see it coming. So, you know, if you're going to do a card to wallet, you know that when you take the wallet out, there's a very good chance that people are going to realize that the card's in there, right? It's one of the reasons I like my magic button effect so much, because nobody, even when the card's vanished, nobody thinks that it's going to be printed on the other side of the magic button, because it's impossible. There's a disconnect between the button and between the signed card. It's the same with this. When you do this routine and you've finished and you've got all these words written down, nobody knows where you're going with this, but they definitely don't think that you're going to have a name reveal built into this. It's so when you have that end moment where you say, well, have a look at this, it's going to be a very strong moment for the audience. It's going to kind of freak them out, right? Assuming it works like it's meant to. And we'll get back to that a little bit later on. But I do like the end revelation. I do like the fact that you've got all these words. They have a free choice of number. And as long as you know the word that they're thinking of, or you know their name, which is very easy to do, you go, "Hey, my name's Craig, I'm the magician. What's your name?" "John, nice to meet you, John. Look, we're going to try and do something. Can you grab your phone for me?" I very much like both the input method. I love the fact that it works on the spectator's phone. I love the end reveal. I love that moment when they realize exactly what it is that they've seen. All of that is very, very clever. And however, there's two negatives. One small negative that I don't think is that big, that I think you can get over, but one massive negative that for me, I can't get past this. And when I spoke to Steve Faulkner and he said, try it out in a gig, I'm like, I don't want to try it out in a gig. I don't want to go to a gig and try it out where I'm convinced that this is not going to work. And as I say, it might just be me being a bad performer, because a lot of people really like this. But I'm going to explain to you my issues with it. So the first issue, which is a minor issue, but it's worth talking about, it is very, very procedural. It's something that you need to bear in mind. It's very procedural in that it's going to take a while to get from A to Z. So you start off, you're going to have to be a strong presenter of magic in order to make this work. Because there's a lot of procedure, right? It's like, right, okay. And you're going to need a piece of paper that you're going to be writing down on. So realistically, you need a table. You could maybe do it in a pad, potentially, and write them down in a pad. But the problem with writing them down in a pad, now you've got to carry a pad around with you. But let's say the name is Ryland, for example. That's 6 letters. So that's 6 times that they need to do a search, and you need to write that word down, because obviously every time they click on a new link, they tell you the link before they click on it, and then they've clicked on that link. Now they're looking for another link. They tell you about it. You write it down. Then they click on that link. So it can take quite a while. There's a lot of procedure to get to the end moments, and nothing happens from a magical point of view or a mentalism point of view until that end moment. And it's also kind of a bit repetitive. It's not actually that interesting. Now, the reason I say that's a minor point is because you can make it interesting. Anybody, I'm fully convinced that Matt, who I think is an incredible presenter of mentalism, could very easily make this engaging. I think he could very, very easily, not a problem. For me, when I'm performing in a gigging situation, I want my magic to be hard hitting. I want it to be quick. I want it to kind of just grab people's attention. Even if I'm doing mentalism, I want it to be quick. You know, you think about something like evoke. It's like, right, what I want you to do is take a card, have a look at that emotion. You're thinking of anger. Brilliant. Right, put it back. Let's try that again with you. This time you take out a card. What is it? Boom. You're into it straight away. Mentalism can be direct. A lot of people think mentalism is drawn out. It's not. You know, a great opener with mentalism is an invisible deck. Hey, I turned one card over in this deck. Name a card. 7 of diamonds. Look at that. I turned that card over. Isn't that amazing? Like with this, it's very much a case of, right, pass me your phone, right? I'm going to go onto Wikipedia. Have you heard of Wikipedia? You got to, you know, they give you a script that you can follow if you want to, that talks about, you know, the twist at the end of movies, which is an interesting hook. And I love that. But then you've got to go through teaching them how to use Wikipedia in order to get to the point where the trick is now inputted and set, and then they've got to go from one thing to a next thing to a next thing. Some of the words that they're going to be calling out that have got hyperlinks are very long words that I'm not going to be able to spell. So you're going to have to get them to spell it out. If you handwrite, you could maybe get a spectator to write the words down if you want to, who's got good spelling, who's got good handwriting. Right, okay, you're going to help us out here. I want to write these words down. But there is going to be a certain amount of exposition. And the problem with that is it's not going to... I would never do this in a gig. This is the sort of thing that is a very nice pipe and slippers moment. So it's kind of like, you know, after the gig where you sit down with people and you can take more time over it, or you're at a coffee shop with somebody, or it's more of a cerebral thing. It's going to take longer to get to the end result for this. I know people have said, oh, I'm going to perform this on stage. I think you'd have to be a very strong performer to perform this on stage. I think you could have a spectator and a flipboard and get them to write the words down on the flipboard. But I think you'd have to be a very strong performer to make this engaging and keep the audience's attention. But that's not the main point. That's like a little thing to be aware of, because I think that anybody who buys this, if they're a strong presenter, they'll be absolutely fine with it. My main concern, and the thing that really stops me from performing it, and this is the reason I didn't like it when Matt showed it me, because what I'm about to speak about, jumped out at me when Matt showed me this over a year ago, and it's why I said on the Craig test over a year ago, this is not good, and let me explain why it's not good. And when I realized this was the same thing, and I tested it on myself, and I went through and I did it to myself, and I realized immediately this problem hasn't been fixed. Now, it might be because it was originally designed for a French audience and they've moved it over to a UK audience or an English-speaking audience. I don't know. But my issue with it is this, right? And I'm going to give you an example, because the first person I perform this to is Ryland. A lot of the time when I learn a new trick, I don't want to try it on somebody, I try it on Ryland, because Ryland's good at being a layperson, but he's got a lot of magical knowledge, right? Even though he's only 11, he's got a lot of experience performing magic. He knows a lot of techniques and so on and so forth. So I was like, right, I'm going to perform this to you. And I got him to get his phone out, and I was like, right, we're going to go on Wikipedia, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So he went on to Wikipedia, and I got him to search for something. I was like, right, search for something. So he searched for Harry Potter. And I was like, right, okay, brilliant, Harry Potter, no problem. And you can see there's lots of blue links, there's lots of blue hyperlinks. Click one of those hyperlinks. And he clicked Voldemort. And I was like, right, okay, you're on Voldemort now. What I want you to do is look for another blue hyperlink, read it out, and I'm going to write it down. And then when I've written it down, you can click on it, and we're going to do that again a few times. And he was taking a couple of seconds. And I said, go on, just read out, because the instructions tell you that this potentially might be an issue. And so the way to deal with it is to get them to hurry along with it, Like, don't dwell on this moment where they're looking for a hyperlink. Just say, look, scroll up and down, look for a blue word, tell me the blue word, and we'll move on. And so I was doing that. I was like, come on, Ryan, hurry up. And he's like, hang on, wait a minute. I was like, what's the matter? He's like, this doesn't make any sense. And I was like, I know what's coming here. It's the same issue I had. And I was like, what do you mean, mate? It doesn't make any sense. And he's like, well, I've just searched for Voldemort, and the first paragraph is about Lord Voldemort, as you would expect. But the second and the third and the fourth, every other paragraph, it's got nothing to do with him. And what do you mean? And he read the next paragraph out, and it was about the agricultural farming in 14th century Peru or something like that. And then he clicked on appearances, because obviously it was based on Voldemort. So he clicked on appearances. And when he clicked on appearances, it was about radar navigation or something like that, something weird. It's like, surely if I click on appearance and it's about Lord Voldemort, it should tell me his appearance. It's telling me about radar. And I'm like, okay, just do it. Just pick one. And then he went on to the next page and he picked this thing. He picked this link. And then the next page was exactly the same thing. It was nothing to do with what he was talking about. And Ryland just turned around to me and he went, I don't like that. I think people are just going to realise what's going on. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe it's because Ryland's a magician. And he said, no, it's because there are a couple of words in blue that he didn't understand. He didn't understand what a couple of the words in blue meant. So he was reading the paragraph to try and make sense of it. And that's when he realised it had nothing to do with it. I was like, okay, well, maybe you just don't do this on a kid. As good as Ryland is, he's still a kid. He's still 11. He hasn't got the perfect vocabulary yet. So I then did it on Sarah. And I had exactly the same thing with Sarah. Immediately. Now, Sarah, I would never be able to do a wife test because she just... nothing fools Sarah. And she's more than happy to tell me something's crap. But immediately she was like, well, this is just rubbish because of this. I'm like, okay. So I did it on Michael, right, who works in the office. Now, he's seen a lot of magic, but I kind of think of him as more of a layperson. And when I did it to Michael, he immediately said, this is ridiculous. And I was like, why? And he'd searched for Pepsi, and then from Pepsi, he clicked on Coke. And he was reading through to look for this blue link, and it was talking about the state of trombones or something like that, and it was all to do with musical instruments. He's like, this just doesn't make any sense at all. And I was like, well, how did you notice that? And he's like, well, you can't help reading the text when you're telling me to look for a word that's highlighted in blue. You just can't help it. And the second you read the text, you realize that it's not what it's meant to be. And I think the problem is Wikipedia is something that a lot of people search. Whenever I'm looking, Wikipedia, in the olden days, back when I was a kid, my mum and dad used to have all of the Encyclopedia Britannicas, right? And that's where we would go to get our knowledge. These days, it's Google, it's Wikipedia, and everybody's used to Wikipedia and getting the information immediately from there. And I think that if there's anything dodgy or suspicious, people, if you've used Wikipedia any amount of times, you'll realize that. And I rang Steve Faulkner, and he said, look, part of the problem is you're performing it to people who work in your office. You want to perform it to somebody in a kind of a gigging situation, or somebody who doesn't work in your office, or somebody who's not your family, because then you're kind of putting them under pressure. It's kind of like when you perform the trick to them and you're getting them under pressure, and they're like, oh, so they're just looking for this blue word because they just want to move the trick on. So I tried to perform it to two people that don't work in the office. They're complete lay people, friends of mine. I show them the odd trick or two, but basically two lay people. And one of them immediately had the same problem. The other person, it went through and they reacted quite well to it. And afterwards I pushed them and I was like, right, if you had to work this out, what would you say is the method? I'm not going to be annoyed. Just tell me if you think that you know. And that's when the person said, well, I did notice that some of the stuff in the when I clicked through, some of the stuff didn't make sense, but I didn't want to say anything. I was like, okay, so that's how you think it's done. And they went, yeah. So everybody I've performed it. Now, again, this could be that I'm a terrible performer, but I also think there's an element of our audiences aren't stupid. And I think there's going to be a lot of people, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are performing this. And even if the audience they're performing it to, even if the person they're performing it to is nice and doesn't say anything, I think afterwards they're going to be going, oh, well, I think I know how it's done. Because you get that, don't you? A mentor of mine said, if you want to know what the audience really think, because a lot of the time they're polite, just go and hide in the toilets after the show and they're going to say exactly what they think. And it's true. I've had that many, many times that I've gone in the toilets and I've thought something was amazing and they go, oh, yeah, this is how I think it's done, and so on and so forth. So I think that I don't want to say this isn't going to work. This is why I'm torn. I'm not going to. This obviously works, but I think the problem with it is the procedure involves reading the Wikipedia article and picking out words that are highlighted in blue that you can click on to go through to the next page. And if you are seeing those words in blue, and you can't just. Because I was thinking, well, maybe I can just get them to shout them out. Like, right, okay, don't read the article, just pick a blue word and shout it out. But the problem is, a lot of the blue words are really long. And to write it down, you might get it wrong. So you need to spell it out correctly. So you're going to have to say, right, okay, what's the word? I'm going to write that down. Don't click on it until I've written it down. Or can you spell it for me? And all it takes is while I'm writing this down for them to just kind of read it. Because they're looking at their phone anyway, and if they do, they'll realise that it's just bollocks, frankly, and it's not anything to do with what they've searched for, because, they're reading it while I'm writing it down. And you can't just go, okay, say a blue word, that one, okay, right, click another one, say another blue word. You've got to write them down in order for that end reveal to make sense. So by writing it down, you're giving them time to have a look at the Wikipedia. And Steve said to me, yeah, but, you get them under pressure. And I totally get where Steve's coming from. Where I perform, I perform in a lot of military bases and places like that. If people get a chance to bust you, they will. And also, it's not so much about the person that's doing this. Normally, when I'm doing something where somebody's using their phone, other people are like looking at their screen as well because they want to be involved in it, right? And if somebody is passively looking at the phone while the person's doing it, they've got even more of a chance of seeing the text which is completely nothing to do with what they've searched for. And that's the problem, because the method behind the trick involves them reading the Wikipedia article and picking out words which you're then going to have to read. But by reading it, there's a chance that they might realize that it doesn't work, like it's not displaying the information that it should be displaying. So as I say, you then say, well, okay, just read out a blue word. Banana. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Put the phone down for a minute. Let me just write out banana. Okay, right, now click on that word banana. But then it comes across as a little bit, I don't know. That's my issue with it. I genuinely believe when spending almost £100 on a trick that has no physical product attached to it and no app to it, it is literally, you're getting this thing, which is fine, you're getting this thing, but I'm spending almost £100 on this. I think that it should work flawlessly. It should work absolutely flawlessly for the price that you are paying. And if there is a problem, I don't think that the solution is, oh, it's not a problem because you're putting the spectator under pressure. They won't notice because they just want to get it right. I don't want to leave that to chance. I don't want to leave to chance the fact that if somebody, and it's not like it's a little thing. I was reading, I saw one person say something on the cafe and they were like, oh, there's going to be one word here or there that's out of place, but nobody will notice. No, this isn't one word that's out of place. This is the whole friggin' article after the first paragraph. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's completely out of context of what they've searched for. Now, again, I have to take into consideration, a lot of people are raving about this. A lot of people are giving it 5-star reviews. A lot of people are saying it's amazing. People on the cafe saying this is the best trick ever. Lloyd Barnes, someone who I've got a lot of respect for, is saying this is brilliant. Awesome. Great. I personally have paid almost £100 for this, and I do not have the balls to go and do this in front of a real audience, because I am worried that they will see through exactly how it works. And all it takes is for one person to go, well, hang on a minute, how does that make sense? He's searched for this and he's got this, and I've got nowhere to go. I've got nowhere to go at all. Coupled with the fact that I think that there's going to be people out there that are polite, that are going to play along with it, but then what's going to happen afterwards is they're going to turn around to the audience and they're going to go, well, you know, actually, I think I know how that worked because I searched for this and it actually displayed this. I didn't want to say anything and ruin his thunder. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that will be able to backtrack how this works when they think about it. You know, why is even just the word itself, forget about the text around the word, even just the word itself. Why, when I search Voldemort, should there ever be a hyperlink for agriculture? As far as I'm aware, at no point in the Harry Potter book series did Voldemort care about agriculture within the UK farming market. So even if we're just taking the words themselves into context and somehow we can get everybody to completely forget about the rest of the text and just focus on the words that are included in the search results that people are searching for will not be. And when you say to somebody, search for something, search for anything, and they say you can make it specific by telling people to search for a country or whatever, they're going to search for something that they have some knowledge about, right? That's how it works on Wikipedia. They're not going to search something completely random. So they're going to know if the words in blue have nothing to do with the thing that they've searched for. Add that to the fact that it's quite procedural, and in essence, you're spending anything from 5 to 10 minutes to get a revelation of someone's name. And I just don't like this at all. I feel like I've spent £100 on something. Well, I have. I'm never gonna do this. I'm never, ever, ever gonna do this. I can't see a situation where I'm ever gonna do this. If I'm going to do something with Wikipedia, it's going to be Wikitest. If I can do something on my phone, it's going to be something completely different. You compare this to the review show special that I did recently on Joshua Riley's new app, and that was amazing. Great utility device, great utility device that forces a number, lots of different applications. Now, don't get me wrong, the end reveal for this is very nice, very, very, very nice. And there's a lot to like about this app. I love that it takes place on the spectator's phone. I love the fact that it goes back to original Wikipedia at the end, so there's no way for the spectator to backtrack what's going on. Although, having said that, if they want to go back and they want to check it afterwards, which I think could happen, you know, so let's say they've searched for Voldemort and somehow they've thought that agriculture is okay, and so they've clicked on agriculture. If they go back onto Wikipedia later on and they search for Lord Voldemort, they ain't going to see a link for agriculture because it doesn't happen. Even if you want to backtrack this later, because you're going to leave them with the piece of paper, even if you want to backtrack this later, you're not going to be able to replicate what's been done. Even though the app takes you out of wherever it takes you and puts you back into Wikipedia, it doesn't mean that that is completely going to stop people from trying to guess what the method is. So look, I understand that a lot of people like this, and that's great. This review show is only my opinion. I really was kind of debating whether to do this review or not. I was debating whether to actually just assume that like I'm the only person here that doesn't like this, but I just think that people need to know. I feel like the £100 or near £100 that I've dropped on this is a complete and total waste of money. Never going to be used, never going to be performed. I think it's very clever, but I can't give it more than 40%. I think 40% is the best. I wish that they'd come up with some sort of AI integration so that when they click on the link, it actually shows information about the thing that they've searched for. I'm sure there would be some AI integration that would allow you to do that. That would be a much better way of actually going with this than what they've done. And I don't know if it's because this was originally in French and now it's in English, but it's exactly the same as it was a year ago. This is the flaw. This is the major flaw that I see in this product. And I don't want to be going out and performing something where I'm concerned about whether it's going to work, and I'm concerned about whether the feedback I'm going to get from my audience is going to be positive because they kind of see what's going on. There are so many tricks to choose from these days. There's so many different routines and effects that you can do. I owe it to my audience to do something that is completely mind-blowing. And as much as I love the final reveal, and I do love the final reveal, I just think this is flawed to the point that I can't give it more than 40%, and I cannot recommend it. I feel like I've thrown my money down the drain. So there you go, guys. That's another review show special in the bag. Hopefully everybody that's asked for a review on an acronym is now happy. As I say, it's only my opinion. Go check out other reviewers. Go see Steve Faulkner's review. He's given it a great review. Go check out some of the reviews on Vanishing Ink. They've raved about it. There's a lot of people that are saying really good things about this app. Only my opinion. I just don't think it's any good at all. But do me a favor, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now, you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. And if you want to join the Netrix, please do so by going to www.thenetrix.com. That's www.thenetrix.com. Go see it and check it out and see what all the fuss is about. But I will see you again soon. Have a great Sunday. If you haven't already done so, go check out the Q&A from earlier on today. The Q&A this week is lit. Is that a thing? Lit? Let's go with it. And I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. My name's Craig from Magic TV.